What is a great but relatively unknown book published in the last century?
Oh, well, probably the one that I would talk about the most is what was it? Lauren Isley's memoir. What the hell is the name of it?
All the
All the
Strange
Strange
Hours?
Hours. Yeah, All the Strange Hours. That's right. Uh, yeah, my memory. I worked overnight. My memory's not what it was. But yeah, All the Strange Hours is one of the great published books, and it's not just a great memoir. It's a great book. It's not just a great autobiography. It's a great book, and by that I mean, if you were traveling from here to Aldebaran or Betelgeuse in some interstellar distance for 20 years, and that's a book that you could read once a year or more, and you still get something from it. And the reason is, speaking of art, as in the prior two questions, is that Isley tells so much about himself, the individual, without giving details about his life. Now, how does he do that? In this book, for example, I think only once does he mention his wife's name. I don't recall him doing it, but I remember when I did one of my Dan Schneider video interviews and mentioned it to someone I interviewed, I believe they said he did once or twice mention his wife's name. But yet you know about this man because of his experiences. And it gets back to one of the things I've always said, and I've said to you and many other people about art or writing, is the way to get into a character and to know someone, whether it's a fictional creation or whether it's a real person like a Lauren Isley, is don't worry about describing the details. Don't worry about describing, oh, he walked down the street with Bob, Ricardo, and they went to the so and so ice cream parlor, and he had strawberry, and Bob had this and whatnot. You get into what is the important thing by getting behind someone's eyes. Don't worry about if they have blue or brown eyes. What do those eyes see? If you want to know what a character, what a person is, whether it's a fictional character or whatnot, what they see is more important. What they are telling you as a narrator. I'm doing a book myself right now. It's a Western, and uh, it's got a lot of standard Western tropes, but they're different because the character who's telling it is a very interesting character. And in the same way, Isley himself is an interesting character because he'll talk about hopping on a freight train, for example, and traveling from, I believe, Nebraska was where he's from, traveling east or south, or then back out to California. He'll give these adventures of people that he met and whatnot. When he does it, he's focusing on the little interactions. He's not focusing on, well, I went by the Grand Canyon, I saw Pikes Peak, and I went and this and that. If he went to New York, I don't think he did, but if he went to New York, he's not going to worry about seeing the Empire State Building or the Chrysler Building, which were big attractions at the time, but he'll be talking about the individuals he met. And so you can get all of these little things about the man's life that are important, that give you a sense who Lauren Isley is/was. But you don't need the details because the details aren't that important. Little things. If you go to Paris, if I'm gonna go to see the Grand Canyon, uh, it might be more important to for me to mention while I'm looking out or going up to the canyon or looking at a plaque of mine, at the side of the monument, that I'm thinking about maybe a run over cat that I might have seen on the highway coming there. Now, here we are. We're looking at some great geographical feature that has been arguably for 30 million, 50 million, however, 100 million years, depending on whoever's telling the story. It's a debate among geologists. But the fact that the character, whether it's me or whether it was Lauren Isley or whether it was you or a fictional creation from someone, is thinking about something else, something ephemeral, something that he sees a dead cat on the side of the road, or maybe he had an argument with his uncle who came out to Arizona with him while he's in the face of this great thing. That is the thing that is of value and worthwhile. Not, nothing else really has that same level of value because that tells you what is important to the person. It's not as important to be there. How many artists do you know, or have you heard the kinds of stories where they'll They'll always sort of name drop. Oh, I met this celebrity, or I did this, uh, you see it on Twitter, you see it on all of these vapid websites. Uh, how many people will say, "Oh yes, I went to Paris and went to see Jim Morrison's grave," or I went to see to Russia and I saw the Kremlin, I saw Lenin's tomb, or I went to and saw the Pyramid of Giza. Well, that's okay, but that's just a place. It doesn't do anything, uh, unless there's some story behind it. And so uh, that's the kind of things that you get in Lauren Isley's memoir, and that's why it's a great book. And uh, you know, it's one of those things that in all great books, whether it's a Moby Dick or whether it's a memoir like Lauren Isley's book, that separates them from lesser works. If you look, for example, at, say, the memoirs of a Dave Eggers, for example, or some of these modern people, they don't have anything. They don't get behind. Forget about the fact that they can't even write words and parse out sentences with any skill. They don't have the insight to get inside someone and uh, to get to those moments I mentioned that Isley would have. So that's the difference, and that's why it's a great book.